Hello, City Point. It's Pastor Mike. Good to be back with you one more time and share together. It's been a great time together. Wasn't Sunday an awesome time? The kids, the prime youth, the men, the move of God, the call of God. It was just an awesome time. I'm so pumped about what God's doing in our church and in our lives. And today I'm pumped about a testimony. This is a testimony from Brad Kellett, who was given on a Central Indiana television program that went out across all over the world. I have a link in the email that you can click on to watch this in its entirety. It's well worth watching. I had to clip it down to fit into our allotted time here, but we're going to get right into it. And I want you to enjoy and be challenged by this testimony of Brad Kellett. I'll be back with you in a minute.
There was a lot of anger issues when my parents divorced. Father really wasn't around.
How old were you when they divorced?
They divorced, I think I was about 5.
Wow.
So I was little, but then it would be a lot of broken promises. Oh, I'll come get you and your sister this weekend, and then he wouldn't show up. Come get you for birthdays, and he wouldn't show up. And then my mom, she had to work 2 and 3 jobs to support, my sister and I, who's 3 years older. And I think I got a lot of anger towards her and resentment towards her because she had to work so much, she wasn't in the house. And then my sister would try and kind of take the parental role and try and raise me, and to me it was like, well, you're my sister, not my parent, so I'm not going to listen to you. And the first time I got high, I smoked weed, I was 11 years old. By the time I was in 7th and 8th grade, I was eating acid, eating mushrooms. 8th grade, I started doing cocaine. I'd snort coke. I mean, it progressed so quickly that in high school, I started smoking crack. The first time I snorted heroin was at another friend's house. So it was, and then it progressed from that, from doing 1 or 2 bags a day to, at the end of the 11-year addiction, I shot it for 9 years. I was shooting $200 worth of heroin a day.
And what were you doing to support your habit?
I worked, but that was never enough. At the time, my wife was my girlfriend, and she kind of got sucked into my addiction, so my demon became hers. So now there was 2 of us that had this horrible addiction. So not only was I working, but then I'd also go out and steal from stores. I'd go steal things from stores, and depending what it was, sell it to a pawn shop. Or if it was liquor I was stealing, I'd take it to a liquor store in the city and they'd buy it from me. And then that's how I supported our habit. From the ages of 17 to 26, I was arrested 13 times.
Arrested 13 times?
Yep, and if you do the math on that, for every other year of my life at that point, it would have been one arrest every other year of my life.
And so what happened? Did you do any jail time before the actual prison time?
Yeah, there were just small little stints, a month here, 3 months there, 6 months here for possession or misdemeanor theft, paraphernalia, things like that. My 13th arrest was actually the one that really kind of scared me. I went out to go steal from a store. I was stealing liquor, and I noticed a security guard from the store was following me, but I was so dope sick at the time, I didn't care. And I walked out of the doors into the parking lot, and he's coming behind me, and my mentality at the time was, okay, the amount that I have is a misdemeanor charge. So if I just tell him I'll go back in the store with him, he'll write me a no trespassing, or if he does call the police, it'll be a misdemeanor charge and I'll be let out. But it went completely a different way to that. He had said some words to me while my back was to him, and we started fighting. And as we're fighting, 3 more security guards from the store came out, and I was in such a bad place, so dope sick and so desperate, that I pulled out a 6-inch buck knife that I had and I ended up stabbing him in the chest twice. Well, I was there with a so-called friend at the time, and I jumped in his car, and he jumped out of the car, and as people are around, I hear him saying, "What are you doing in my car? I don't know you, get out, get out." And I'm just like, at this point, stuck. I have nowhere to go. Well, the police ended up showing up, obviously, and they arrested me and they charged me with attempted first-degree murder, a count of aggravated battery with great bodily harm, count of aggravated battery with a weapon, and retail theft. And I was taken to the police department. They found the knife in the van. They had videotape everything, witness statements, so they booked me into Cook County Jail. And at the same time, my wife was she was sentenced to a work release in Lake County, Indiana, as an alternative to prison, because she was in there for a probation violation. And she ended up starting to go to Bible studies in there, and she started writing me letters. And she started telling me about this man named Jesus, and she started sending scriptures to me. And for me at this point, it was still kind of a joke. And I literally wrote her back saying, "You're going to be a Bible thumper. That's what you're going to be," you know. And she just kept on, and
From
she
drug
kept
addict
on.
to Bible thumper.
Right. And she kept on sending scripture, and there were things going on in the dorm that I was on. There was a guy that got moved from what they
So you're in
called.
prison at this time.
I'm still in Cook County Jail.
Cook County Jail. Okay.
I'm still in Cook County Jail, and this guy gets moved from what they call the Christian deck to the unit I was on, and he starts Bible studies. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, my wife is really not going back to the lifestyle we had. So now we have nothing in common, you know, because all we knew was getting high together and hustling and stealing. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start reading the Bible so I have something to talk to my wife about. And that's where it all started from. I started going to the Bible studies, and something inside of me started to change and started to shift. And you know, there's points in my life I could look back and see God was always trying to get my attention. He was always around me. He always had a calling on my life, but I always ignored it because I wanted to party. I wanted to have a good time. I wanted to get high. I was filled with anger and hatred and resentment. But God never gave up on me. He never gave up, and He reached me, I think, through the one person that only He could use to reach me. I don't think there's really anybody else He could have used to reach me at that point. So we're going to fast forward a little bit to my sentencing date. I got arrested in March of 2009. I got sentenced in August of 2009. And as I'm sitting in the bullpen, my public defender, I didn't have money to pay for a lawyer, and a lot of people will call them public pretenders just because they want to get cases under their belt. Well, she had told me, she's like, the state is offering you 8 years at 85%, so I'd have to do like 7 3/4 years for the attempted murder charge. And I'm like, there's no way. There is no way I could do that. My other choice was go to a jury and have a trial where they had the witness statements, they had the knife, they had the video, everything against me to literally hang me out to dry. Or she could go into a conference with the judge, and what he recommended would be the final say. I wouldn't have anything else. So I told her, go into the conference with the judge, and I'm in this bullpen with all these guys that are waiting to be sentenced, and I'm literally on my knees praying, God, you sit me down for how long you need to work on me. You let me sit for however long it takes for me to become what you want me to be.
Was it at this point that you gave your life to Christ?
I still haven't completely given it to Him, but through the Bible studies, through my wife encouraging, and through the reading,
You were praying.
I was praying. I was starting to get into a relationship with Him. And so she goes in and talks to the judge and comes back, and there's just shock on her face. And she's like, I don't believe this. And at first I'm thinking it's something bad, you know, and I'm like, what? She's like, the judge threw out the attempted murder charge. He went against what the prosecution was recommending and threw out the charge. So the attempted murder is off the table. And he said, I don't see intent to kill. So he offered me 5 years on an aggravated battery with bodily harm. I'd have to do 50% of the time, so it would be 2.5 years. The other aggravated battery he threw out, and then he gave me 3 years on the retail theft to run concurrent. So I would have to do 2.5 years out of the whole sentence. And I got sent to a prison in Southern Illinois. That's a 22-hour lockdown prison.
Marion, Illinois?
Shawnee. So it's a 22-hour lockdown, 2 hours out. You get an hour out of your cell in the morning, an hour out at night, and it's a disciplinary penitentiary. I was able to mature quickly in the Lord because all the time I was able to spend with Him.
To spend in the Word. Things are different now.
Absolutely different. You know, I came home from prison in 2011. My wife had been home, and it was kind of hard at first with that because now we're two completely different people than when we went away, so we had to relearn each other. That was a little obstacle, but we overcame it. We had my 3 stepkids were restored to us, which is just awesome. They were with their dad for so long, and I mean that it was such a wreck where they were at. And to be able to have them restored, the relationships with them and my wife restored. My wife and I have a 2-year-old now, and she was asked to speak at this corrections facility that she was a resident at. So she was kind of nervous, and so I went with her to support her. And when we got there, she introduced me to the administrators that are there. I kind of told them a little bit about my story, and they asked me to share my story with the residents there also. So my wife spoke, I spoke, and before I could leave out of the building, the 3 top administrators came up to me and said, if you want a job, give us your resume. In January of 2013, after being there for 1 year, it was, I want to say, a couple weeks after my 1-year anniversary there, I got promoted to a supervisor. To be able to be used by God in that situation, and I think it really hits home with a lot of the residents we have at that point, because a lot of them will look at me and they'll see the uniform, they'll see an officer, but then when I sit down and I talk to them, they're just kind of like shocked and in awe about it. But from my side, that brings a compassion for them that makes me want to show them that you don't have to keep coming back through these doors like this. That, look, I was just like you. In fact, I've probably done much more worse than you have, and Christ saved me from that. He can do the same thing for you. To really give your life to Christ, you need to surrender that to Him and let Him take it. You know, we got to lay it down at the feet of the cross for Him. If you picture Jesus on the cross with the nails through His wrist, the nails through His feet, beaten, unrecognizable, that's where your freedom reigns at. Freedom reigns in that place where Christ took everything you had, everything bad in your life, all your sin, He took it on that cross for you. And just as He rose from that grave, God will raise you from that too when you lay it down for Him.
Such a powerful testimony. You know, that's a powerful word. That's how this works. You lay down your life to pick up His life. He laid down His life so you could take up His life. He took our sin so you could take His righteousness. He took all your bondage, your hurts, your pain, so you could take His wholeness, His healing, His holiness. It's not at all a fair trade because we surely gave Him the raw deal, but He gave us the greatest gift in salvation that you will ever know. Thanks, Brad, for that testimony. You should go to the link and watch it in its entirety. It's very powerful. Thanks for watching today. I've got to run. I want you to just tell your story, folks. Tell your testimony. Tell your story. It will change lives. I'm so grateful for all the many stories here at City Point. Amazing people with amazing stories that are changing the world. God bless you.